Good evening, everybody. And it's an absolute pleasure to welcome to this exciting webinar. This webinar is on communication that influences and transforms. And thank you taking your valuable time to attend this program. And this is actually the fourth workshop. We have uploaded the previous workshops on YouTube, and you can watch the videos on YouTube. The topic is on communication. Communication is actually the invisible thread to connect us with people, get ideas, connect with opportunities, whether you are a founder of an organization or a CEO who are leading a company, or you are an HR head fostering culture, or an L&D professional. Effective communication is the key for that. So tonight we are discussing the strategies that influence or the tools that transform. Let me introduce today's facilitator, Mr. Vineeth Vinnie. He is a highly sought after corporate coach and a published author. He is transforming leaders and organization through his coaching and consulting services. And I will be your host tonight. I am Khamarudheen KP. I'm a corporate outbound trainer and a columnist in a newspaper. I'm also a mountaineer. We are planning to conduct this kind of workshop in every week. Right now, we have planned 10 workshops. You can also invite your colleagues, friends to this community to join the workshop. I suggest you to actively participate in this program. If possible, you can switch on the video, or otherwise you can actively participate through audio. You can also be active in the chat window. Over to you, Vineeth. We can start.
Thank you, Kamaru. Thank you so much. And once again, I also welcome all of you to today's webinar on communication. Right. So I hope you all are ready. Where all do communication happen in an organization? If you work in an organization, whether a corporate organization or an NGO or an educational institution, where all communication happen? What are the areas where communication happen? Between who all communication happens? While I speak, you can also type in the chat window. Right. Mails, meetings. Preeti, thank you so much. What else? Where else?
It happens with everybody on a different level. It could be formal, informal, visual, verbal, vocal.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Client calls, verbal, vocal, visual, non-verbal, right? Formal, informal. Thank you, Taranjeet, and thank you, Shweta, Preeti. Thank you so much. Right. So there are many areas where communication happens. Communication happens between colleagues. Communication happens between the leader and the team. People at many different levels, among people at many different levels. Communication happens between the employee and the clients. Communication happens between the company and the world, not just the client, the larger world, people who are not even your clients, not even your customers, to the general public. So communication happens at many different levels and in many different ways, right? And before we actually dive into communication on that happens on the surface level, we need to look at a couple of things just before we dive into that part of it. Communication is the surface level reflection of everything that is underneath, everything that is on the base of the organization on a deeper level, right? So we are going to just have a look at a few things that will show us how communication is not just about what we see on the top. There is more to it, right? So I hope you can see what's on the screen.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you. What does it read?
It reads parking at your own risk.
Right. So this is something you probably have seen at some places. At least you would have seen it at least a few times in your life, right? It may be normal at some places, but this was spotted at the hospitality related company organization, right? I saw this at a cafe where the organization and the employees, everyone is supposed to be hospitable, right? So this is a communication. A customer comes, a customer sees this, a customer reads this, parking at your own risk, right? So this stands out if you see it at a hospitality organization, hospitality related company. It's when you see it at a cafe. When I asked the manager, he said that the tiles, some of the tiles at the cafe, they were broken, and one day a Fortuner of a customer, when they entered the premise, the wheel got burst because of the broken tile, and there was an argument between the management and the customer. So they put up this poster saying "parking at your own risk." Right now, this is in a way, in a lot of ways, this is quite understandable that parking to some extent should happen at your own risk, even if it's not written there. Because legally, you cannot move against the cafe if your car is stolen from the compound. That's something that the thief does. So whether you say it or not, it's understood. But when you write it there, parking at your own risk, you make it very obvious and make it straightforward and show it right on the face of the customer. It doesn't feel bad, at least at a corporate, at least at a hospitality organization. Now, something else recently happened. I understand how you feel. I understand what you feel. I understand your concern. Such a beautiful phrase, right? But how many times have you heard this with no meaning inside? Recently, I went to a private finance organization, a private bank, and I had to make some back and forth communication between them because I was treated poorly in a particular context, and I had a concern. And I tried to get in touch with my relationship manager, a dedicated relationship manager, many times. And this person, he was not attending calls, and he would pick the call and say, "Sir, I'll call back in 5 minutes." And then he wouldn't call back for another 1 hour. Then he would say that, "Sir, I just ended a meeting. I'll just look into your issue and call back in 1 hour." And then he wouldn't call back. And after all this, when I said that, just close my bank account, I finally said this, "I don't need your bank account, just close it." And then he said, "Sir, I understand how you feel." Right? So I understand how you feel is a phrase that is communication, but when it's just used as a strategy, it has no meaning. I understand how you feel should be more about the culture than about a strategy. So in that sense, a lot of communication is not just communication. There is more of it. There is more about it. There is culture in it. There is values in it. There is vision in it. And communication is just what you see in the surface. And sometimes it may look all beautiful, but deep inside, things can be really problematic. So that is an entirely different issue. But we should not forget that just with communication, you may be able to patch a few holes here and there, but that doesn't set the course of the ship right. So I would like to start our today's discussion on communication with this point. So there is more to communication. It's not just what you see on the surface. And when you use certain phrases and certain sentences, certain dialogues as just a strategy, that doesn't help you. Now into communication, actually. Have you ever got a yes that you later found out was a no? Has this happened? When did this happen? Can you share some time that this happened? Somebody said a yes, but then you realized that was not really a yes. It happens all the time, right?
Yeah, usually when we friends plan for a trip, they say yes, but it is actually a no. They give a reason and they back out. Yeah.
Yeah. People
Just for
back
the sake
out.
of saying yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Just for the sake of saying yes, they say yes. Because they don't want to say no and make you feel bad or offend you or disappoint you, right? So people say yes just to make you happy then.
Yeah.
Now, this is something that happens in organizations a lot of times, all the time. So
When
this
we
is
ask
a
for
particular, yeah, please go ahead.
we ask for salary revision and increment, at that time they will say, at the time of appraisal, your salary will be revised.
Yeah,
But
but it doesn't happen.
yes.
Yeah, right. So it can happen on many different levels. Sometimes it can happen from the leadership. Sometimes it can happen on the part of the employee. Sometimes it can happen between colleagues.
Yes.
Sometimes it may be between the leadership and the employees.
Yeah, if we implement
So,
a new project, everybody's yes, we can do. And there are lots of opposite opinions. They won't openly share that opinions at that moment.
yeah, yes. So this is a particular communication style. If you look at these three statements that are on the screen, you may be able to find some pattern. I'll read it the way usually people say it. I'm fine with whatever the team decides. Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. It's my fault. I'll just do it myself. Don't worry about it.
Passive.
Great. Thank you. Right? It's a passive way of communication, right? So what is it, Taranjeet? Could you share what is the what are the features of passive communication?
So
Any
basically,
ideas?
yeah, so basically passive kind of a communication or style of a communication is so inside you have some other opinion or you have something else, but on the surface you're trying to, say something different, which is going to please the other person. However, later you're going to regret it and then
Right.
complain. So that's what passive is all about. You're not being assertive about what you want and not stating it properly.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Taranjeet. Yeah. So this is exactly why this happens. This is why you get a yes on the surface, on the moment, but you later realize that it was a no. People say yes even to things that they are not capable of doing. That is not their responsibility to do. That is probably somebody else's responsibility. People say yes to everything just to make the other person happy, just to please the other person for the time being. Sometimes leaders do it, sometimes employees do it. Like we said before, sometimes it happens between the employees. And you take all the blame and you take all the pain, and later you sulk, you feel bad about everything, and you are not able to do it because right now you're not capable of doing it. So this is one form of communication. It is very common uh, among people in general. This is a very common approach, a communication approach. If you look at families, if you look at organizations, if you look at educational institutions, this happens. This and probably it's more common in Indian culture. We tend to try to please others because they are elders, because they are seniors. So it's also because we respect seniors, we respect elders. We want to make them happy. We want to please them. We don't want to let anybody down. But eventually, what happens is that we let everybody down and we'll feel bad ourselves. Now, there is another pattern of communication that you can see here. If you can't handle this, maybe you shouldn't be on the team. This is ridiculous. Just do what I said. You never listen, do you? I'm sick of repeating myself. What is this style?
Aggressive.
Aggressive.
Yeah, aggressive. Right? So, have you seen this? Have you seen people doing this kind of communication?
Oh, yes, so many times.
Yeah. So this is the other common kind of communication that we see in the workplaces, right? People get aggressive. People shout at others, and these things are not just about the tone. Sometimes this can also be more subtle, right? And sometimes these words may not be exactly the same, but this is exactly what these people make others feel. Now, if you look at this, oh, sure, you're so busy. I guess I'll just handle everything like always. Wow, must be nice to have so much free time while the rest of us are working. No, everything is fine, really. Why do you ask? What is this?
Feels like a passive aggressive.
Hmm. Passive aggressive, right? Shweta, what do you think?
I feel is it like submissive?
Hmm.
I feel this is assertive.
Hmm.
This is sarcasm, like using a lost. This is transactional analysis where you're trying to say something else. However, you are meaning something completely different. So yeah, we can say passive aggressive.
Ulterior.
Yes, that was the word. Ulterior.
Right. Yeah. So we are not going to that part of TA, transactional analysis. But this is like Taranjeet said first. This is the passive aggressive, right? The person is actually aggressive, but doesn't want to hint the things directly, right? Making a subtle note of the aggression by being sarcastic, by making fun of the other person. Oh, sure, you're so busy. I guess I'll just handle everything like always. Like always. Wow, must be nice to have so much free time while the rest of us are working, right? Sarcasm, right? No, everything's fine. Really? Why do you ask? Why do you even ask? Right? So the person is angry, but not directly expressing the anger, like here. If you can't handle this, maybe you shouldn't be on the team. This is aggressive, right? The one we saw before. This is ridiculous. Just do what I said. It's straightforward angry, straightforward aggressive. You never listen, do you? I'm sick of repeating myself. Aggressive and passive aggressive is different. You're not directly telling people that how angry you are. And what happens is that people get confused because people sometimes slightly miss it, whether it's sarcasm or whether they are being nice. They are being fun, right? So this happened with one of the managers in my early career, where there was something going on in the organization, and I had to write an email, a complaint about this to the headquarters of a training organization where I started my career. And one day morning, the next day morning, it was not against my manager. I had very good relation with him, but by the turn of events, it kind of happened like that. He'll also feel the heat of the things going on. So the next morning, I got a call from my manager, and he told me, uh, "Good morning, Vineeth. Well done." And I said, "Thank you, thank you, sir." I mean, I didn't. I was not making fun of him. I thought that he was probably appreciating me for because I was not complaining against him. I was complaining against something else was going on the organization. And just because he was angry about it, he said, "Well done," in a sarcastic tone. He was being passive aggressive. But I didn't get the sarcasm part because I didn't mean to get him into any trouble. And finally, I did something to save his ass. Finally, I did that. But this is what I said. "Thank you, sir." And then he disconnected the call. And then I was still on the bed, and I just got up and started thinking. And then I thought, okay, maybe he was not serious. Maybe he was being sarcastic, right? So it leaves people in confusion, right? And finally, the fourth way of communication. I feel frustrated when the project is delayed. Can we work together to find a solution? I feel overwhelmed with the current workload. Can we discuss redistributing some tasks? What is this?
Assertive communication.
Right, assertive communication, right? So what is special about it? What is different about it?
This
And you should,
collaboration.
yeah,
So
This collaboration here.
it's about respectful of others' thoughts and feelings too.
Yeah, respectful of others' thoughts and feelings. Thank you, Shakti Singh. And Taranjeet, you have raised your hand. You can also chip in.
So it's
I was saying,
okay. No, sorry. Go.
sorry.
Yeah. So,
I
who
just
was
was
it?
adding
Preeti, ma'am.
collaboration.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Thank you, Preeti Sehgal. I thought it was Taranjeet who was saying, right? Yeah, it is collaborative. Great. Thank you.
Preeti, you have said it, or you want to go ahead first?
No, I'm done.
Okay, great.
Right.
So it's again recognizing what is right and also
Mm-hmm.
recognizing what the other person is saying. So being respectful not only towards ourselves but also towards the other person, coming to
Yeah.
a common ground and also not playing the blame game while recognizing what you're feeling and communicating in a very subtle manner.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Taranjeet. Thank you, Preeti. Thank you, Taranjeet, and thank you, Shakti Singh. So you are expressing what you are feeling. You're not hiding what you're feeling, as in the case of passive, right? In passive, you don't express what you are feeling. You just say, "I'm fine," when you are not actually fine with whatever the team decides, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. It's my fault. I mean, this is not a wrong statement to say. Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. It's my fault. But it's in the context. So some people always take the blame, even when the mistake is not theirs. That's how it becomes passive. Otherwise, it's not a bad thing to say. If you actually did a mistake, you can say apologize like this. But the thing is, some people always apologize even when the mistake is not theirs, so they can please others, right? So
May I add
uh,
something here?
yeah, sure.
One more point came to my mind just now. It's
Mhm.
also about directness of communication.
Mm.
You're being point blank and
Assertive.
direct. In assertive,
Which
yes,
one?
in
Assertive.
assertive
Yeah.
communication. You're
Yeah.
not only just being respectful, considering
Hmm.
others' opinion, taking them
Yeah.
into a team-like approach, and
Hmm.
being expressive at the same time, being direct also. Unlike
Yeah.
passive aggressive, where people don't say what they mean,
Yeah.
or they have something
Yeah.
else to say and something else to mean, but here it's
Hmm.
simply straightforward and direct approach.
Yeah. This is straightforward. So there is a problem, and that problem is being addressed. The fact that the project is being delayed, that fact has been brought to the discussion, that has been brought to the table. You're not hiding that the project is delayed to make the other person happy. You're saying that the project is being delayed, but just that you are not labeling the other person. And you are not saying that the other person is frustrating you. You're saying that I feel frustrated. So the feeling is yours, but the fact is true that the project is being delayed. So you're not blaming the other person, you're not labeling the other person, you're just stating the fact the project is delayed, that is the problem, and you're thinking from the solution side. It's not about blaming, it's not about labeling, it's about finding a solution, but the issue has to be addressed. And you are feeling something. You are not hiding the feeling. You're expressing the feeling. Just that you're not blaming the other person for causing that feeling directly. That part is not direct, but the issue is directly addressed. And you are not being subtle about the issue. Can we, and the solution part, can we work together to find a solution? That is where, like Preeti said, collaboration comes in. And I feel overwhelmed with the current workload. Can we discuss redistributing some tasks? Now, if someone is passive, like if the leader is passive, if I am the leader and I am a passive kind of person or a passive aggressive person, somebody who's being assertive may appear to be aggressive to me because he or she is being direct. The project is delayed. The issue is being addressed. The issue is brought to the light. Now, a passive person, if the leader is a passive person or a passive aggressive person, or even an aggressive person, uh, this may appear to be aggression. Even confidence may appear to be aggressive, kind of aggression. But that's not to say that you should not take assertive approach. This is the most ideal approach, and in the beginning, you may find difficulty dealing with people having different approaches, but eventually you will be understood for you who you are, and your life will be much more easier. You'll be once you are understood as an assertive person, somebody who says the thing the way it has to be said, in a straightforward manner, direct manner, but without labeling and without blaming, expressing your own feeling, you will be accepted as an assertive person, and then your life becomes much more easier. Then people will know that, okay, if you talk to Preeti, she will say things directly. If you talk to Taranjeet or Shakti Singh, they'll say the things the way it is, and you know that. And once you know that, it's much more easier for you to live, because you don't have to hide your feelings. You don't have to be passive. You don't have to say, I'm fine with whatever you think, whatever you do, right? So this is the assertive communication. And like it came up in the discussion, you are being respectful of the other person, and you are being respectful of yourself. You respect both parties in a communication. According to Stephen R. Covey's model, the win-win approach, right? In win-win approach, you need to have the courage and the compassion, right? You need to have the courage and the compassion. Then you can have a win-win relation, or a win-win interaction with people. Also, win-win communication with people. You should be able to stand up for yourself. That is courage. The courage to stand up for yourself. The courage to express what you feel, what you think is right. But you should also have the compassion to listen to the other person and understand their feelings and perspectives. That is when you have a win-win communication. And when you are a win-win communicator, this is how you communicate. So, and this is the least common in most, I'm not saying all organizations, but in most organizations, for some reason, it is very rare for us to find people who exercise assertive communication all the time. And it becomes really hard if the culture doesn't support it. So like we said before, it's not just about the strategy, it's about the culture, right? And again, coming back to getting a yes, which is a no. Is there a solution for this? How do we get a no when you should get a no? What can we do? How can we encourage people to say a no when it is a no, when it is actually a no?
I think for the environment also, that should be safe. The environment also should be safe to say. Otherwise, if somebody says no, that creates another problem for that employee.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing.
I feel that, it matters a lot when you keep in mind what is at stake. There are times when we when we want to say no, but we end up saying yes. So again, what is at stake? Is your job at stake? Or is your relationship with the person you're dealing with is at stake? Is that more valuable to you?
Yeah.
So that matters a lot.
Right. Yeah. Right. So thank you, Preeti. So it matters a lot. What is at stake? Sometimes your job is at stake. Sometimes your relation is at stake. All this happens because the environment is not safe, right? The environment is not safe for you to say no. If the environment doesn't support a no, what will happen is that people won't say a no, but they'll do the no. They'll leave the no in the environment, in the organization. And eventually the organization will suffer. Yeah.
Yeah, Vinny, recently I gone through a news that the company asked the staff that how many of you are stressed or how many of you are frustrated. Those said yes, they terminated or something. I read a news. I don't know whether it's true or not.
I think it's true. But I was also wondering whether they did it for virality or something. But I guess the news is true. Yes, madam. Right. That's the name of the company. Did anybody read that? The company did a survey among the employees and asked them how many of you are stressed. And a lot of people said they are stressed. And they said goodbye to all those employees who said they are stressed.
I came across this too in a newspaper.
Yeah. Right. So it's not safe in that environment. It's about yes. So or probably in a different way, it's also no, right? They're saying the employees were saying no to something indirectly to something that is happening in the organization. So it's not safe in that environment to speak up, to say what you feel. You can't belong there. You have to fit in. You have to act like a different person to be accepted. That is when you say yes instead of no. That is when you agree to something else, even if inside you don't agree with it. Because if you don't agree with that, if you disagree with that, you are out. You are the odd one. So an environment, a healthy culture is where you belong. You don't have to fit in. You don't have to look like somebody else. You don't have to speak like somebody else. You can be yourself and still be part of the tribe. So that safety is really important. So this is again one layer below the deeper layer under communication. This is about culture. So this is not just the like Stephen R. Covey would say. This is not about the personality ethic. This is a character ethic. In terms of the organization, this is a culture ethic, right? So yes and no. It is really important for the employees to have the freedom to say no, to raise their voice, to raise their feelings, to raise what they feel in discussions inside the organization. The employees or anybody from the organization may not speak whatever they feel like speaking to the outside world. There needs to be a code of communication for that. But inside, people need to have that freedom. It's your family, right? So that is when people can be themselves. Now, that is one thing, having the freedom to say no. In his book, Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss, he was an FBI negotiation expert who has negotiated with terrorists who kidnapped like people and asked for a ransom, asked for something else in exchange. He has dealt with Al Qaeda terrorists. He has dealt with criminals of all sorts. So he is a master of negotiation, and he says that there are three kinds of yes. One is confirmation yes, the other is counterfeit yes, and the third is commitment yes. Only the commitment yes will help you to go ahead as an organization, or if you're a salesperson, only the commitment yes will get you, to actually closing the sale. Right. So commitment yes. In all other situations, you should be able to accept and no. And he specifically shares some strategies to ask for no's as answers, not to try to get yes. There is also this marketing approach of getting to no, not getting to yes. Right. So be comfortable with no, so that you will hear it and you will know it when there's a no, rather than to understand it later when it is at a most risky phase. So that is one thing. Now, the pronouns. So here, we were also talking about the collaborative nature here, right? Can we work together to find a solution? Can we discuss redistributing some tasks in assertive communication, right? The collaborative nature of the phrases. So the pronouns are important. There are times when you should be able to say I, because you have the courage to say I and talk about yourself, what you did, what you contributed, what you feel. And there are times where you should be able to say you, not like in an aggressive manner. There are times when you should be able to tell other people by addressing them as you. And there are times when you should be able to say we, the collective, right? All the pronouns are important, and it depends on the context where you need to use it. When you have courage, you sometimes say things that start with I because you are talking about yourself. Now, sometimes you'll have to give directions that are about the other person, that is for the other person to complete. Then don't take the passive approach. Be direct and say that. And sometimes you have to remember that it's a family, it's a collective, and use the pronoun we. And finally, the frame. There is always a frame of reference And if the frame of reference is not clear, people miss the point. Has anybody said to somebody else that please come early tomorrow, and only to realize that early means a different time for the other person? You might be thinking that 7 a.m. is early, but the other person thinks that 9 p.m. is early, right? So in communication, always keep in mind that the frame is different for people, and have a clear frame of reference. It's always better to say, please reach by 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. rather than saying, please reach early. So that is also part of clear communication. And one final point, it's about silence. What happens when we are silent for a while? I've been talking for quite some time, and when I pause for a few seconds, at least some people will feel, kind of an irritation. Preeti, you wanted to say something, I guess.
I was actually about to say something just the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Silence speaks louder than words, they say, right? So it has its own significance when somebody pauses.
Yeah.
It
True.
raises curiosity in the minds of others, and they become more keen in trying to understand what you are about to say. When you pause, when you're silent for some time, and then you speak. So that
Right.
just came to my mind.
Great. That is true. But unfortunately, most of us have a bad relation with silence. If you are on a sales call, if you're pitching a product, a service to somebody, and if you just said something, and do you consider this? Do you want to buy this? And then if the other person is silent, you immediately want to fill the silence with something, right? If a manager is talking to the employee and asking something to the employee, if he or she can do this, or directing the employee to do the team member to do something, and if the employee is silent for a few seconds, the tension rises. You need to fill the silence with something. Most people, right? If you have mastered silence, then it's good. It's great that you have mastered silence. So it's fine for you to remain silent. It's fine for your colleague, your subordinate, your boss to be silent for a few seconds. And even that's not personal. You can wait till they have finished thinking, and they'll say something, and then you can continue. So it's really important to be comfortable with silence and with no, like we said before. So if you're comfortable with no, people will say more no, but they will not do the no, right? If you're comfortable with silence, people will not just say something so that the tension is relieved, so that the conversation just moves forward. People will actually think and speak. Yeah. So these are the things that I wanted to discuss with you in today's discussion on communication. Now the floor is open for questions. You can share your questions. You can share your experience. You can chip in whatever ways you want. So I'll just leave one prompt here. What is one communication challenge that you face in your organization, in your career? One communication challenge. We can work on something that you people are facing in your life, or you have seen the organization facing.
One thing I can sorry, may I start? May I say something?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Yeah. So since you asked about organization, so there was one in which I worked. In fact, not just one, but in whichever place I worked, I noticed that uh, this communication gap most of the times, which causes a big time challenge. Not only to me, I think, but it's to the other party as well. And I'm sure that most of us here have experienced this at some point or the other. So this is one thing. You spoke about silence. Okay, so there are people who question and there's some silence, or sometimes people simply nod their heads. They don't speak anything. whatever be the
Yeah.
fears, communication, lack of proper communication skills. So whatever be the reasons, but they don't open up and say some proper sentences or any verbiage which can mean something. So this is one challenge. There is communication gap. People understand or interpret things in their own way, or information doesn't pass on smoothly. So this is coming to the top of my mind when you're talking about challenge in communication. So communication gap is one top priority, and how communication is perceived differently. You're trying to say something, but people are getting some other meaning out of it, interpreting it in a different way. So this is second most.
Right. Yeah.
Thanks. That's all I had to say.
So, yeah, communication gap and people understanding the message in a different way. Right. It would also be great if you could, if you can think of a scenario where something like that happened.
It's just not easy to recall, but let me think.
Sure. Yeah. You can, if something comes to your mind, you can also share it later.
Sure.
Thank you, Preeti. And Aarti has commented something. Yeah, sure. Just a second. Aarti says, yeah, Pradeep. Yeah, just a second, Pradeep. Thank you. Some people say yes and agree, but don't change their ways. What to do? Okay, sure. We'll talk about it. And that's also about being passive. So we'll talk about it. Pradeep, yeah, you can go on. Go ahead.
So I just want to say that also in some cases, the knowledge about the particular subject makes them whether to speak or not. Now, in our review cases, I am working in a World Bank project in which Keltron is some company is developing a software. Okay, so when they are presenting it, most of the team members they are viewing the presentation, but they are not able to comment on that because they lack knowledge on it.
Yeah.
So that is also one thing I want to mention.
Yeah, right. So this is to this something immediately comes to my mind. So I'll just start with that, Pradeep. Thank you. So in a brainstorming session, in a discussion, if you say a lot of no, people will get silent. If you start with yes early on in the session, when we said that we should be open to receiving no, but if there are juniors, if there are people who have less knowledge on the topic, to get them all on board, to get them all started, even from these people can great ideas come. So if you value in the contribution of people, and if you want people to contribute, it's important that you say yes early on in the presentation, early on in the discussion. You don't say, no, that's wrong. No, that's wrong. No, that's wrong. No, that's not how you do it. Yeah, maybe you said that is a little bit right, but not exactly. Right? If this is how, as a moderator or as a presenter, as a teacher, as a manager, if that is how you are dealing with the team, as you go forward, less and less people will only speak. More people will choose to remain quiet. So in improvisation, the theater, approach of improvisation, there is this maxim of saying yes and. Yes and. I'll comment it in the chat window. Yes and. So what they say is that don't say no, don't say yes, but say yes and. So in a discussion, if somebody says, okay, so what about doing this? So you try to explore further. Yes, and what more could you say on that? Right? If you are in a discussion with your friends and you're planning to start a business, and somebody says, why don't we start a business where we sell pickles, right? So you might have some other idea, but if only you just try to explore what else is there in their mind, you'll get more ideas. Yes, pickle business, but yes, pickle business, and what pickle? What pickles do we sell, right? Sometimes, I guess Preeti said early, we plan tours, trips with friends, and there is one friend who always says, there's one friend who always says no, And there is this another friend who always says, yes, we can go for a trip, but something, there will be something. But Sunday, Sunday I have this program. But Saturday, Saturday I have to go for shopping. This month, I don't have money. So there is always a but to things. So yes, but is also a blocker. If you say yes, but, the discussion is already blocked. So if there is a culture of saying yes, but, yes, but, yes, but, yes, what you said is right, but, yes, that makes sense. But, yes, that's interesting. But, so if you say yes, but all the time, what happens is that people will stop talking. So for people to talk, you should say yes and tell me more about it. So whatever they say, everything may not be right and everything may not be useful. But if you have a culture of saying yes and early on in the discussions, and later you may filter a lot of things out, but that will create a possibility where new ideas emerge. The most silent person may have the smartest of ideas, which will be there in his brain, mind, and it will just go away if you don't have this place for yes, right? So that is a thought that comes to my mind, and yeah. And about Arti's question, some people say yes and agree, and but don't change their ways. What to do? So it's important. It's important for leaders and managers to understand that change doesn't happen really fast. Change is sometimes really slow. If somebody is not at all aligned with your organization, you may have to reconsider having them there. Whether you should retain the person there, or you should uh, let that person join a different organization where he or she fits. That is one thing. But if somebody is coachable, you should give a chance for people to change. And sometimes change may be a bit slow. And if you just help them understand what they can do, and if you can just help them that you are there, if you just take a collaborative approach of okay, to meet this target, what kind of help do you need? What can I do to help you to achieve this target? What can I do to help you finish this task by tomorrow? It may be painful because you may already have something on your shoulder. But if you empower that colleague or that subordinate, that junior, what will happen is that eventually that load will go away. It's just like, in a lot of ways, it's just like parenting, right? In Kerala, we use a lot of grated coconut. That's probably very common in some other southern states as well. Uh, and if you let your young kid grate coconut early on, what will happen is that there will be grated coconut all around. But eventually you won't have to grate a lot of coconuts, right? Early on, the kid will be chopping onion, not very thin. There may be large blocks of onion if the child chops it. But eventually you won't have to chop onions. So early on, things won't be perfect, but eventually the child will be empowered. So an employee is also like that. Your junior is also like that. Your new colleague is also like that. Sometimes you have to be patient. So that is the approach of empowerment. Otherwise, if you go and hold the hand of your colleague, your junior, what will happen is that they'll never learn it. Or if you yourself are trying to do that in place of that person, to make things fast, to remove the headache, you will have that headache forever. So it's important for you to ask the question of, how can I help you so that you can finish this task by tomorrow evening, or whatever be the deadline? How can I help you? What can I do? What help do you need for you to finish this in 2 days? What help do you need to close 10 sales by the end of this week? What can I do to help you? How can I help you? What help do you need? What resource do you need? Do you need any equipments? Yeah, coaching and support approach. Yeah, that's it. So coaching skills is also something that we plan to discuss as part of the series. All managers, all leaders, all parents, all teachers, even political leaders, all leaders need to have some coaching aspect, coaching strength, coaching skills in their toolkit, so that they can empower other people. Yeah. Thank you. So,
Sir, I just remember one thing about this sentence, what you told, that how can I help you so that you can complete the work? This
yeah,
last part is too important, that I have faced so many situations that I have asked someone like, how can I help you? Then every time,
yeah,
whenever he is in trouble, he comes to me and please help me so that I have to complete this
yeah,
in within 2 hours or something like that. So it's a troubling
yeah,
sentence if you
yeah.
incompletely say that.
Yeah, very, very important. Thank you so much for adding that point, because that's really crucial. It's not about you helping the person forever, and it doesn't help actually when you are helping the person by actually doing the work yourself. You are not actually helping the person, because the person doesn't learn anything. And eventually, if you move to some other company, or if that person moved to some other city or a company or an organization, how will that person survive? So it's like giving the person fish or teaching the person to fish, right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And you commented that at the exact time. Teach him how to fish, so that the person can lead his own life or her own life the way he or she wants. Yes, Preeti, you wanted to say something. Yeah,
Yes. So, continuing with what you and the other person has just added.
Pradeep.
Now, when we ask these questions about what kind of support do you need or how can I help you, I
Mhm.
think that not randomly we are supposed to ask these questions. It's not a good thought to ask these questions just like that. We have to
Mhm.
understand what situation is and how the person you're dealing with, or uh, the person that we are talking about, the person concerned is. So, is the
Mhm.
person lacking in will, or is
Mhm.
the person lacking in skill? If the
Mm.
person is lacking in skill, then we have to
Yeah,
think about how important it is for us to have that person, train that person, impart
yeah,
knowledge or skills, and then take the person forward. I mean, that's how you can
true.
uh, and make him or her enhance those skills. Now, if the person has skills but
Mhm.
doesn't have the will, interest,
Mhm.
enthusiasm, that's when we can ask these questions. How can I help? What support do you need
Mhm.
from me? So
Mhm.
there lies the value of that question.
Yeah. You said that if the person has the will but doesn't have the skill, right?
Yes. If
Yeah,
the person
right.
has the will,
Yeah.
if the person has the will but no
Mm.
knowledge, no skill,
Yeah. Mhm.
then this question is meaningless. Like I feel that it's not good enough to ask that question. I don't know who the other person was who spoke about this problem, that every time
Pradeep.
the person reaches out. Sorry?
Pradeep.
Pradeep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pradeep. So,
Yeah.
so I'm referring to that. So the
Mhm.
person who
Yeah.
is reaching out to you again and again, because once you offered help, now if the
Mhm.
person keeps asking you for help time and again, it
Mhm.
clearly indicates, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but it clearly indicates that the person is lacking in skill.
Yes,
Mhm.
madam. It was in earlier time when I joined the job.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So now it's okay that now, I mean, later I taught him how to use Excel, VLOOKUP, and all those
Hmm.
functions in Excel, and
Hmm.
later he was okay with that. Uh,
Hmm.
I was saying that earlier time, this
Mhm. Yeah.
how can I help you made some trouble for me. That was the point.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So even you have experienced that. Now you have a fair idea about how you have to deal with
Yes,
those
yes, yes,
questions. But
exactly. Yes.
uh, so the point is, like, for anybody who has not experienced this and would like to ask this question, as per Vineeth, you can ask this question: How can I support you? What kind of help? So when you
Mhm.
ask this, please keep in mind that is all. And
Yeah.
Pradeep, you can call me Preeti. No need to call me ma'am. I'm just an ordinary person like anybody else's. So just I had experienced these things, so I'm sharing out of my experience that look at the will and skill of the person that you're dealing with. If the person lacks in skill,
Yeah.
that person
Yes.
needs training. These questions of help and support would not matter much. If the
Yeah.
person is very valuable to you. You want that person to be there in the organization. If the person is your colleague, or sorry, you are a team leader, you are a manager, and this person reports to you, and you feel that the person's presence is very important, then you can give support and ask those questions. But if you think that the person, these questions would not be of great value to them if they have no knowledge and skill, so think about training
Yes.
them on that. But if the person
Yeah.
already is good but is losing interest, maybe there's nothing to keep his or her enthusiasm levels in place, that's when you can offer this supporting questions. How can I help, or how can I
See,
support?
actually, there
That's
are
all.
Yeah.
some other type of personalities also in this or in some organization. Like
Mhm.
one person was there. Uh, she was always say she will come to us and say, "Oh, you can do it very fast, so please do this every time." And she will be saying that I have some other work. Actually, she doesn't have any work, and she will be
Ah.
roaming all those organizations. These type of personalities also were there.
So
Yeah.
again, what is at stake? Is that person very important to you? If you want to
No,
keep the person
see,
pleased
they are
and happy, then
colleagues,
you
and
have to.
I was below some kind of managers working in
Yeah.
below the subordinates level.
We also have to keep track of the time.
Yes. Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Pradeep, about that, it's also about uh, you being a bit passive, right? So it's also
Actually,
it's also
these are all my previous experience, not now.
yeah. I mean, I'm not talking about right now. So if somebody is asking you to provide that kind of help repeatedly, uh, people usually come to uh, those people who have that passive approach, who don't assertively say that, right? Like we said earlier, what kind of support you need so that you can finish it in this time, right? That is really important. That is really important for you to directly say certain things. And from what Preeti said, it's important to know whether the person lacks skill or will, and we'll have to take different approaches. If it's about the skill, it requires training, and sometimes the training may be formal and informal. It may be something that the team leader or some senior colleague gives by offering this kind of help. Even that is a form of training, but that has to be done in this context where you say that what kind of help you need so that you can finish it in 2 days. So it's about teaching the person to fish rather than giving the person a 1 kg fish for today, right? So it's important. And it's about the will, then it means something else. It takes a different approach. Maybe that's also something that we can discuss. There is a model called the ARC model, ARC, ARC. And ARC means A for autonomy, R for relatedness, and C for competence. Autonomy, relatedness, and competence. These are the three things that is required for someone to have the will and someone to have the want to do something. Autonomy, relatedness, and competence. If these three things are there, people will want to do things, people will be willing to do things, and then people will be motivated. That takes a different approach. That is about the employee motivation, and maybe we can have a discussion on that on another day. It's 9:30 already, so we'll just quickly wind up today's session. Over to Kamaru. And then thank you all for actively participating and
Yeah.
for the valuable insights and thoughts you shared in the session. Everybody, thank you all.
Thank you, Vineeth. A big thanks to you for the insights and the practical wisdom. Actually, another thing, this session was too interactive, and I appreciate everybody, those who contributed, actively participated, those who active in the chat window. So a big thank to everybody for that. And we'll be planning to conduct this kind of sessions in every week. Right now, we have planned 10 sessions. And in the next week, we will be conducting a program on OBTifying, OBTifying the trainings and meetings for business leaders. We mainly focus on the business leaders, CEOs, HR leaders, and L&D professionals, and plus the facilitators. And you can invite your colleagues, your friends, and all to this session. And we'll update all the details in our group. You can stay in our group. We also conduct some paid programs like next week on 20th, I'll be conducting a program called Game Wizard. I teach 10 games and activities. Those who want to learn experiential games and activities, you can contact us. And Vineeth is a coach. You can schedule a free discovery call with Vineeth. If you get stuck or you want to unstuck or you want to move where you are in right now, and if you want to get any coaching support, you can take an appointment with Vineeth. That's the discovery call is absolutely free. There one more thing, and we both are focusing on training, coaching, and consulting, and we are open to collaborate with you, and we can discuss such collaboration opportunities also. And once again, thank you so much for everybody, and special thanks to Vineeth, because this session was that much interactive, and special thanks to all the participants and those who contributed and those who listened. I have recorded this session and will be uploading on the YouTube, and you can watch later also. So thank you so much. Good night and bye. Okay.
Thanks, Khamarudheen.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot. And Vineeth, thank you so much.
Thank
We've
you.
learned a lot
Thank you,
from you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. Good night.